Welcome to the Build Your Base podcast. I am Jack Thomas, founder of Base and host of the show. Today we are talking to an old Bangkok friend, Sakson Rouypirom, known to friends as Zax. Zax started a charity called SATI that helps underprivileged communities and children in Bangkok and Thailand. At Base, we really love the work that Zax and SATI do, and we do support wherever we can. So getting Zax onto the podcast to talk about it was an absolute pleasure. Our interview with Zax is broken down into two parts, with part one today focusing on Broccoli Revolution, which Zax is involved in as a partner. Broccoli Revolution works closely with his charity SATI, and so we delve into that partnership today and we talk about what it means to run a socially conscious business. In our next episode, part two of the interview, we'll delve deeper into SATI and the great work that they do, so do tune in for that one. This is one of my favorite chats so far on the podcast, and if you'd like to find out more about SATI, Broccoli Revolution, or if you'd like to get in touch with Zax, do go to the show notes of this episode. All the details are there. Here is part one of our interview with Sakson Rouypirom of SATI and Broccoli Revolution. Welcome to the Build Your Base podcast. Yeah. I'm very happy today to be joined by an old Bangkok friend, Sakson Rouypirom, who is one of the partners at Broccoli Revolution and also started a charity that does awesome work in Bangkok and beyond in Thailand called SATI. Today the conversation is all about Broccoli Revolution. Just want to start off with you, Zax. So where are you from? Where did you grow up? Tell us a bit about your story.
Okay, cool. So I'm Sax. I actually grew up in the US. I'm 100% Thai though. But my parents went to graduate school in the U.S. and then after they graduated, my father got a job there. So I was born and raised in the U.S. actually. Born in New Jersey.
Hence the accent.
Hence the American accent, yeah. But most of my life I spent in the U.S. I moved back to Thailand briefly, middle school. So 7th and 8th grade I spent in Thailand to international school. And then I moved back to the U.S., lived in New York, went to University of New York, went to NYU, came back. I moved back permanently to Thailand about 7-8 years ago. I moved back to actually start the nonprofit.
How does living in Bangkok compare to living in New York?
It was a bit of an adjustment in the beginning, but Bangkok reminds me a lot of New York, how it was when I was growing up. New York was growing up, it was very mom and pops, delis and coffee shops and small businesses. And when I go back there now, it's not like that, it's very corporate. And Bangkok, I feel like it has that same energy as New York City, you can start a restaurant, you can start a gym. In New York, you know how much money you would need to start a restaurant? You would need $5 million US or something, minimal. And then if most people don't have that, you get a loan, and if most restaurants fail, 80% of restaurants fail in the first year, and then you're in debt for the rest of your life. Thailand, you can fail, and you can try again and fail, and that's what I like about the energy of Bangkok,
Yeah, I love New York. I think there's definitely a similar energy that you get from both cities.
Yeah, I get a lot of kind of inspiration from New York. There's new trends. Go to New York for new food and new workout trends. Just lots of new stuff starts in New York.
Yeah, I think in every industry, a lot starts from there or LA. Certainly true the fitness industry as well. Definitely learn a lot from the leading players in the industry there. So when you were growing up, you still spoke Thai as well?
Yeah, so I grew up speaking Thai at home. My mom likes to tell this story about how when I came back from preschool or kindergarten, and I'm I don't want to speak Thai anymore because at school your kids can pick up languages really fast. She's like, well, we're Thai. If you don't speak Thai to me, I won't speak to you. So I'm really thankful for that. Because I'm able to speak fluent Thai because of that, because I'm speaking Thai at home. Or else I have a hard time in Thailand.
Yeah, I'm sure that helps with your business and your charity work here as well. Yeah. Okay, so tell us a bit more about Broccoli Revolution, how that started, and at what point did you get involved with the business?
It's actually interesting because I kind of grew up in restaurants. 16, I was waiting tables, I did washing dishes. I worked at multiple restaurants through university. I worked in a restaurant at night just because the hours, New York, I went to school all day, and then the only job you can get at night is a restaurant or a bar, So I worked at restaurants. Even in graduate school, I worked at restaurants. So I told myself whenever I was more established, I would never do anything with restaurant related anymore, just because I was kind of sick of it, because I spent so many hours. And then this opportunity came up, so I was already doing SATI. SATI I was doing for about. So SATI has been around for 7 years. Broccoli's been around for 4 years. So I was already about 3 years in, maybe a little longer. And the thing about SATI is I never wanted it to be a traditional nonprofit where we're hey, can you please donate some money? Donations is nice, but I want it to be more sustainable, where like money comes from like activities with base. It comes from like eating food. Like people, I wanted giving to become a part of people's lives. And I feel like that's more sustainable. And I was always looking for like different models. And then I met Naya, my business partner at Broccoli Revolution, and she's like, she was really into juicing. Like her big thing was like, she wasn't feeling very healthy back then, and she started juicing a lot, organic vegetables, organic juices, and then she said that it changed her life. And we spoke about like food, and we spoke about, she was really interested in the social aspect of what I do, and I'm like, and we thought about hey, there's this kind of synergy of like, it's a restaurant, but not really. It's like, hey, it's like an awareness platform of what you can eat, how you can give back. So when I looked at Broccoli, I didn't see it as an opportunity to come work in a restaurant or be a part of a restaurant, but I saw it as an opportunity to be part of a brand. People was like, like why vegan, why plant-based, and it's more about letting people understand about options. Everybody knows that eating more vegetables and more fruits is good for your health. We want people to need more options about that. It is not all about salads. So when we talk about, hey, we want reducing meat helps the environment. It helps with your health. It's clear-cut fiber, nutrition, vitamins, everything. So we looked at this concept. We're like, there's a lot that we think we can provide to Bangkok and people in general. Close 3 to 5% of our profits goes to support several nonprofits. Actually, SATI is one of them. When you buy like a juice, 9 baht goes to SATI, and then we also support a coffee brand, which is a nonprofit. We work with small local farms. We do a mushroom program through SATI. We get mushroom germs from the north. And then I run a pop-up clinic once a week in Kuala Lumpur. We get the kids there to grow the mushrooms, and Broccoli buys it for them. So it's like about how to, we call it like a socially conscious business, which is a little different because people always talk about like social enterprises. So like a social enterprise is more of a numbers thing. Like 50% of your profit needs to go back into developing social projects or being donated, which we do anyways. But I think you, as a business owner, you can do more than that. And by saying socially conscious, that means that you're aware. You're not just thinking about margins. You can go to like Macro, or you can go to like 7-Eleven and buy the cheapest things you can find, and you can sell it for the biggest margin. But at Broccoli, we want to create impact bigger than that. So like the mushrooms I told you about, the farms we use are not the cheapest farms. They're some of them are organic. They're quite expensive. They're smaller. The logistics are harder. There's more problems. It makes us have to charge more for some of the stuff, but we're also building an ecosystem. The whole like fishing, it's not just about teaching someone to fish, but you have to help build that pond. So being socially conscious, you know your products are good, you're helping other farms work out. It's like about building the synergy, rather than just being, hey, let's make the most money as we can. Obviously, you have to make money to sustain.
Yeah, that's great. Just can you tell us a bit more about the team that you have and how you look after them as well? Because I don't think F&B's got the best reputation in terms of looking after their staff, but I know you really do take care to make sure that you kind of build a career, build a life for them. Tell us a bit more about that.
Yeah. So I said I grew up working in restaurants. Like, and after school, I would go wash dishes. After school, I'd wait tables. It's a very common part of American culture.
Same in the UK.
After school job. I think you might notice that you're not going to see too many like Thai kids doing middle to upper class doing after school jobs, especially restaurants. It's like they feel like serving or waiting tables is serving someone. So culturally wise,
that's good to do, I think, right?
Yeah, I totally think it's amazing thing to do. It's about learning to work hard. Culturally wise, there seems to be a little bit of a stigma with like serving people and working in a restaurant. It was in the beginning. It was very hard to get staff, because most of our customers are international, so English is important. It's hard to get staff to stay a long time, so it was about building that foundation. So rather than hiring someone who's super English fluent, who's probably not going to stay with us that long, or maybe might not even work that hard, we would try to find a balance, kind of developing our staff. One is letting them understand about our mission. So we do, SATI does, we do projects. We go all over Thailand, and we do water projects, we do nutrition projects, we do workshops. So a lot of the staff we take with us. So that's one is like our chefs all have been, cooking for the kids and teaching about nutrition and cooking. One is to let them know that, hey, we're not just trying to build a business where, hey, you get your paycheck and you're on your way. It's like, hey, we're trying to build like a culture together where our restaurant gives back to the public and helps people. So one is letting them, understand that. We also have kids from the nonprofit who've come to train here. which is, it's been a bit of a challenge because the kids, they're from different worlds. So, they're being in the middle of Tong laws. Like, it's a little stressful for them, but our staff is very understandable of like supporting.
How do they respond to that, doing this community work, doing more than just working in a restaurant? Like, how do they adapt and respond to that?
I think it energizes you, you know what I mean? Like, because we work, restaurant,
purpose, right?
Yeah, restaurant hours are long hours and you're on your feet a lot, so it gets tiring. It's like, when you're just working for a paycheck, you start to lose motivation. So, trying to get the staff involved and also like trying to develop. We want to create a tier, it's not just, hey, you come in and you be a server and that's what you do for the rest of your life. Because some of these kids, some of these staff members, this is, they raise a family off of what they make. They have kids, this is their future. So how do we develop a future for them? Now we have English classes on Saturday, English classes for the staff so they can develop, their language skills. So you can become from a server to a cashier when you make more money, and then eventually maybe a manager. The goal is actually to keep on going, They can maybe like, be upper management, and then who knows if we're able to expand, maybe it can be part owner, who knows, that's kind of like the dream, but it's about development, so I think we've been lucky with the people who've been with us for a while, but people obviously come and go with the restaurant industry, so.
How have things been the last few months, just with COVID-19, forced closure?
The last month, it's been really, really tough. I guess for everybody, but I think people have seen like the restaurant industry globally has been like flipped upside down, because
New York must be especially hit, right, with the rents that they have there.
I just read in New York recently a really popular seafood place in Soho, which like close to where I went to school. I can't remember the name. I'm drawing a blank, but it's been around for 25 years. Doors shut, It's restaurants are closing, like really, really popular restaurants are closing, and they're not going to open up again just because, rents and costs. Restaurants work at quite a tight margin, Restaurant business is like cash flow and margins, It doesn't work on this big, like save a lot of money, and most restaurants are always working very thin. So if you get hit, you can survive a couple months, but then you don't have savings beyond that, And then there's always maintenance fees and equipment. You're always unexpected costs in restaurants. So the first thing we want to do is we wanted to make sure we can support our staff,
Right.
So we there's a government form. So we made sure we filled out all the government forms for them so they can get their money. Second is like the initial thing is like, hey, ask people, hey, does anybody want to take a vacation? Are you willing to start? And then we kind of rotate from there. And then what we've done, MMC worked up to is rotating staff. So we've kept all our staff,
Right.
but we rotate hours. During the COVID, we only had one location open, Sukhumvit, and it was just delivery. So now we've slowly opened up 2 locations are open up. The Central Embassy location is opened up now. And July 1st, our Jalanpur location will be open up, which is a little tricky because hotels are still closed.
Right.
So
it's quite reliant that area on Shangri-La and everything else.
So what are we going to do, right? You gotta see.
It's definitely a battle for all Bangkok businesses.
Yeah.
Sounds like a very similar mindset to what we had at Base. Our very first thought was looking after the team, make sure they're okay, because we knew if we did that, then come the end of this, we would still have a team, we would still have a company as well. Yeah. So we've been working with Broccoli Revolution since day one at Base, which is awesome. I've obviously known you for about 7 or 8 years.
Yeah, I know.
Pretty much when you first came here, I guess. Tell us a bit more about the partnership that you have with Base, kind of how that started and how that's benefited Broccoli Revolution.
Like Base, for me, like it's always been like a really good synergy. Like, just not just the food, but also with SATI. With Broccoli, our goal is a lot of it is health related. Like we don't use, other than not using being plant-based, we're also unprocessed. So we don't use any processed food. We don't use any MSG. Like we make our ingredients fresh. So freshness is very important to us. So obviously that has a reflection on your health. So when somewhere like Base where it's fitness, it just seems like an obvious like good synergy. So I think the customers, also Base customers, understand what we're trying to do with the food. But sometimes like if you're not really into it, you're like, it's just vegetables. But it's it's not. It's grains. It's proteins. It's like why is quinoa important? Why is all this stuff important? Avocado, like nuts. What does this provide? And I think a lot of the Base customers understand that value. Since day one, it's been a good crossover. Base staff is always hanging out here. It's like a family. It's been nice.
Yeah, it's cool to see that synergy develop and to see so many clients going back and forth as well. How has the vegan scene in general developed in Bangkok?
It's exploded. So
you were kind of one of the first to the party, right?
Yeah, we were like, if not the first, one of the first vegan restaurants, plant-based restaurants. And like within like every year, there's more and more. Like there's one that opened up across the street that's closed already, and even in the last half of the year, I think there's like 3 or 4 places that open up. Which I think is really good because in a general public way, like in like living in town, not everybody really knows what like plant-based food is, and they're like they think it's like, do you know what J food is? It's like
the festival, right?
Yeah, the J festival is a religious aspect. It's a Chinese Buddhist festival where they don't eat meat. In the beginning, a lot of the time people are like, oh, there's supposed to be like a religious restaurant, like a J restaurant. And so they were afraid to come in because they thought it was like, oh, I don't eat J, I eat beef. I'm like, no, that's not the point. It's just about giving you more choices. In New York, people there's tons of it's plant-based places, and everybody goes. It can be like when you're thinking about that meal you want to have in the evening. If you have a plant-based meal, you're improving, having more vegetables and fruits to your health. You're reducing carbon emissions. You want to build that option. So having more restaurants open up, it also builds awareness. This is like this or this is like that. So I think it's
a good, strong, inclusive message as well. It's not like you must eat vegan every single day, but it's about presenting options. About saying, hey, we should probably be eating less meat than we do already. So here's a good place that you can come and do it. Do you see that continuing to grow and develop in Bangkok?
I think so. Because I think we talked about it at first. There seemed to be like a very strong health trend in Bangkok. But when things are good, they last. And like health, it may start off as a trend, but when you do something and you feel good about yourself and your health is better, then you want to keep on doing it. So I think like it's people they try it and it's not like it makes them feel bad. And it's not they're like, oh, this isn't too bad. I'm like, what did you expect? Like you're not eating cardboard. So I think when people try to eat different things and the trend becomes a way of life.
How do you see the next year or so for Broccoli Revolution? I'm sure the answer to this question would be different than if I'd asked in January.
Yeah. In January I had lots of plans. we had lots of plans.
Almost every business is.
This was supposed to be a big good year, but now I have to say honestly it's just about survival. It's about survival. It's like I feel like I'm starting from scratch some days. Well, we talked about the delivery model. Delivery. We get a good amount of deliveries, but it's very difficult because it's through apps, and which I think a lot of restaurants will say the same thing. Like delivery, it hasn't been helping most restaurants just because by going through the apps, these big companies they take a large percentage, 30-35%. That's most restaurants work on a 20 to 30. 20 to 30. 30 is like the ideal margin. You know what I mean? That's like the magic number. So most restaurants work from 15 to 25 margins. So if they're using these apps, then they're actually losing money. And then you have staff. So we've been trying to develop our own delivery system, but it's web-based. So you can actually go to our website, broccolirevolution.com, and there's a link. So it's you can order our food there, and then it's a seamless delivery. So a Lala Move will go deliver to you. It hasn't people are using it, but not so much because it's web-based. So we're trying to get people to convert more to our website because then we're going to get charged the fees. So that's a big goal for this year is to kind of like push that more. Another thing is scaling to what life has become like. Before people used to line up, but people they're not lining up anywhere now because they don't want to be cramped up with a bunch of strangers. So
certainly a lot of new challenges that we have as business owners to tackle. I think over the next 12 to 18 months for sure.
Yeah, so survive this year and then see how it goes.
Okay, well, best of luck with that. I'm sure Broccoli will be fine. You built something great, and it's a very strong brand, strong concept. So, best of luck for the future, Zachs. I look forward to continuing our partnership with Base, of course. We will get you back on the podcast very shortly to discuss the great work that you're doing with SATI. So, thank you very much for joining us.
Thanks, Jack.